Spurs snap their 2-game losing streak. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kens 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. Hey, your Spurs snap their 2-game losing streak. They beat the Rockets last night out in Houston, 124-105. So much to look at in this game. That's what we're going to do. We'll give our general thoughts. Look at the numbers, that box score. What does it tell us? A lot of positives. I don't know. Maybe our guest is going to find some negatives. That's going to bring him on. He is Rudy Campos with Sweep the League, back once again to recap another Spurs game. And it nearly didn't happen because Mr. Campos forgot to put it down on his calendar. I'm glad you remembered, Rudy, though. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I remembered. It was last second, kind of like a Michael Jordan buzzer beater. It was the very last second, but I remembered that, hey, I've got to get on Locked On Spurs. I forgot. But yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Oh, good. Yeah. I texted Rudy before the game, and I mean, it was clearly the Spurs wanted, and I was like, hey, what we're going to do, the usual, here's go to the same meeting conference room, and he's like, oh, yeah, I forgot. Did you pull a Homer Simpson? Did you go, dope?
Pretty much, man. I was with my daughter. She was giving me a new hair makeover, and then I got the text. I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about Locked On Spurs."
Are you still getting that makeover as we talk right now?
No. I had
okay.
to. I'm in the I guess the waiting room now. So,
well, make sure to follow Rudy on Twitter at Sweep the League. Make sure you do that right now. Let's dive into it. Rudy, the Spurs once again beat the Rockets 124-105. Spurs record is 10-20 on the season. My first general thought is maybe Houston won because they got a worse record and to get their chances higher against the Spurs for Wembanyama. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this was a game that I think I had taken Houston to win. I just like the athleticism they have with Houston. With Jabari Smith, their young rookie, Jalen Green, KPJ as well. I mean, I figured Houston would run away and dominate with this, especially with, like I said, with the talent that they have. But it did kind of seem like from the get-go, Spurs got out of the gates 35-28 in that first quarter.
Yeah.
It just didn't seem, outside of the second quarter where the Spurs were dominated by the Rockets, I think by like 9 points. It really just wasn't a close game all night. I mean, the Spurs were in control of the whole thing. So, yeah, it kind of seemed like the Rockets are all in on the Wemby sweepstakes.
Much of the chagrin of Team Tank. I forget. Are you Team Tank or Team Compete? I forgot.
I am team whatever happens.
Whatever happens. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, before we look at the box score, obviously the big thing that jumps out is the Spurs were able to get the W without their head of the snake, although he hates to say that he is. That's Keldon Johnson, who did not play. But nevertheless, you had several Spurs in double figures. Again, we'll go to those numbers again. I think we had, six or five?
Yeah.
Oh, look at the box. Yeah. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Woo!
7 guys.
7 players in double figures, which is really good. Rudy, do you think the Spurs team played a complete 48 minutes versus Houston? That's something Popovich has been saying that this team cannot do, is play a full 4 quarters.
Well, I mean, if you look at quarter by quarter, they did lose the second quarter to the Rockets, but at the same time, they bounced back even stronger right after halftime, coming out of the locker room with a 32-14 quarter over the Rockets. So I would say a complete 48. Yeah, it's pretty close to being one of their most complete games of the year. But definitely, you saw some improvements from the silver and black. And it just so happens to be that it was with Jakob Poeltl in the lineup. So, I mean, you got to keep that in consideration too.
Yeah. I look at the Spurs win, and aside from the balanced scoring, which there was, I believe almost all Spurs scored except for Bassi. But pretty much everybody who got on the court got some production as far as help the Spurs win. And that third quarter, I'm glad you brought that up because usually the Spurs are on the receiving end of bad quarters like that. When the Spurs are up, they'll take their foot off the gas pedal, and they did that for a period. But I just think the Spurs just had a stranglehold on this game from jump. The Spurs now move to 10-20. They're not the worst team in the West. That now belongs to Houston. But I got to ask you, Rudy, when you look at this win versus Houston, and I know the points are there, everybody scored, and I get that. But for them to shoot a high percentage throughout the game is really good, because that's one thing the Spurs have struggled throughout the season is their shooting can be erratic.
Yeah, especially they were shooting, I think it was 50% from three-point range, which is a very high number for the San Antonio Spurs, 55% overall from the field. Free throws were okay, 78%. But yeah, you don't really get a whole lot of shooting nights like this for the San Antonio Spurs. Seems like when they're all on and they're all shooting well, the ball movement seems really, really good. I mean, they had 30 assists a game, which is what pretty much their average at the beginning of the season when they were leading the league. It just makes it so much easier when the ball goes through the hoop. It makes the hoop just that much bigger. But yeah, having them shoot a very high percentage, especially in three-point range, you're going to win a lot of ball games if you do that, no matter who you are and who you play.
Generally, the Spurs, the biggest lead over the Rockets was 26 points. Yeah, it really wasn't a contest. I mean, they were just cruising to the victory. 30-plus points scored in periods 3 and 4. They really put away the Rockets. And the Rockets, Rudy, I look at them, and on paper, you wouldn't suspect they would have a 9-21 record, considering the young talent they have. But here they are. Do you sniff them trying to win the Wemby sweepstakes?
I think they are going to be in the Wemby sweepstakes. I mean, for granted, they've got some really young guys that are really good players. But the thing with them is that they could still use an athletic big. And it's kind of weird because you're looking at guys like Jabari Smith, right, and even KPJ. But yeah, and Eason as well. But if you add a Wemby on there, it makes that job for those guys a lot easier, especially with the athleticism they have. So I wouldn't be surprised if they are all in for that. But let's not forget, I mean, Scoot Henderson would definitely be a benefit for that team, make them just that much better. So I think they're at least in the top 2 when it comes to players.
Can you imagine that, Wemby in Houston and the Spurs, just lose out of Wemby or Scoot? And that would be Zion in the division, Luka with the Mavericks, Wemby with the Rockets. That would just not be good if you're a Spurs fan. But I mean, there's so many good things that we're going to come out of this win, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to look at the box score next. I'm going to dare Rudy to find something negative about this win over the Rockets. Probably going to be a step further away from Wemby. That if I had to venture a guess. But yeah, once again, we're here with Rudy Campos with Sweep the League. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Sweep the League. Make sure you do that right now. But before we continue talking about the Spurs win, I want to talk to you about Turo. Turo is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the U.S., U.K., Canada, and Australia. Book a spacious SUV for a family trip, or maybe a minivan. Get a classic or luxury car for that special event, birthday, holiday. Get an affordable economy car if you're on a budget and you just need to get from point A to point B. Test drive that new electric vehicle you've had your eye on to see how it fits into your daily life. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Forget boring rental cars. Find your drive at Turo.com.
Autobots, roll out.
And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with my guest, Rudy Campos. Follow him on Twitter at Sweep the League and check out his show, Sweeps the League. He'll brag about that in just a few minutes. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen today. Make sure to check out Locked On Sports today, available on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. All right, Rudy, you had some time to look at that box score. And before I dare you to find something really negative about this win, kind of want to start this off. And we talked about the balanced scoring, but specifically I want to talk about Devin Vassell, 26 points, 10 for 17 from the field, went to the free throw line once, made his free throw, so he's 100%. Nevertheless, it just seems to me that maybe he is emerging as the Spurs go-to guy as a whole on the squad. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I like Devin's game. I mean, in my opinion, he's gonna be their best two-way player. And I think we need to see a lot more of scoring from Devin as he continues to grow, and that's what we're seeing this season. he's taking charge of the team. He's getting to the basket. He's trying to create his own jump shot. There was a point, I believe, early in the game when he shot a three, he missed it, he got it back. I think they got a rebound for him, got it back again, shot it again, missed it again. And that's what you want to see. You want to see a guy continue to shoot. Shooters shoot, and that's what we want Devin to be as a shooter. But he does have a slashing style to his game that is going to benefit the San Antonio Spurs a whole lot as he develops more. But I remember saying at the beginning of the season, he's going to be the leader, the guy that takes the next step for the San Antonio Spurs, and that's exactly what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, we saw that in the loss to the Heat in Mexico City. After the game, he took the blame for the loss he took it on himself. He said, "This is all on me," because he missed some defensive assignments. So I like that leadership that he shows, even in a loss to Miami. One other thing, too, that jumps out for me when I look at the box score is fast break points. The Spurs dominated that department, 26-6. And I think that's the key to a Spurs win game in, game out. They got to get out on the break and run. You had Eric Spoelstra, Heat coach, say that's the Spurs' strength, that pace. If they're playing fast pace, they are a problem. Not the first time we heard that from opposing teams. Your thoughts, Rudy, on the fast break points versus the Rockets?
Yeah, when you don't have a superstar, a legitimate superstar, you've got to run. You've got to confuse the other team. And the best way to do that is getting the ball out and running. Create defensive problems for the other team. We saw Tre Jones make a steal towards the end of the game and just get on the break. He missed the layup, but Sohan was there to clean it up. It seems like they're more active when they're running on the fast break, which is a really good thing. So if you're not going to beat them in the scoring wise when it comes to shooting, because we know shooting is not their thing, you got to be able to move the ball. Not only that, you got to be able to score on the fast break. So running the old Jerry Tarkanian running Rebels type of offense would definitely benefit the San Antonio Spurs.
I have not heard Tark in a long time.
I've been giving all these names to you, haven't I, lately?
You have. Got another one before we continue? What's another one?
Paul Pressey.
Oh, my. Wasn't he assistant coach for a while?
He was a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, he was, yeah. Paul Pressey, yeah. He had I think he was Kyle Anderson before with the slow-mo moves. Because I remember him just being very smooth and methodical on the court, the Spurs. Wasn't he also a player coach? Why do I think that? Why do I remember that? Like he was literally designated player coach.
He might have been a player coach towards the end there. Yeah, I think he might have been a player coach.
Oh, wow. Really bringing back all the oldies but goodies here. Rudy, 17 for 34 for the Spurs from the three line, 50% shooting. That's what they got to do in today's NBA is knock down those threes. And the threes were not falling for Houston. They, 5 for 24. They were just misfiring everywhere. Before we get your one negative that you like to see cleaned up ahead of the next game, I'll give you mine. And that has to be, for me, just how much of the Spurs just got burned in the paint. 68-48. That could have been the Spurs' demise versus Houston. Luckily, it wasn't. But again, maybe it's just because the outside shots were falling. They didn't need to go to the paint. But that is just way lopsided, Rudy.
Yeah, and that was actually going to be one that I was going to bring up was the points of the paint. And I'm glad you did because it's kind of a good thing, but it's also a negative. I mean, you would think a game like this, Jakob Poeltl would be able to dominate in the paint. But with the shots falling from the outside, especially from three-point range, it's a good thing you don't. It gives kind of Jakob an easy night in the paint. Let him do just a little bit of the dirty work down there. But, yeah, being dominated in the paint is definitely not a good sign for the Spurs.
So what's your one negative?
So I've got one and one. I got 1A, 1B, and I'm going to make them real quick. 1A is the turnover battle. And they come out with 19 turnovers compared to Houston's 11. Not a really bad thing. I mean, normally if you're going to lose a turnover battle, you're going to have a close game or you're going to lose it outright. They got lucky with some of the turnovers. They were able to, capitalize on some Houston turnovers, but the turnovers really didn't affect them that the Spurs had. So it's kind of a good thing, but I would like to see them kind of clean that up. Everything else seemed to be great, but the other negative that I've got is that you're going to make me talk about Tre Jones again, and I'm getting real tired of it. So I've got a question for you on Tre Jones.
Sure.
I feel that this is a 100% yes for me. So for you and all Spurs fans out there, because there's a million people that listen to the Locked On Spurs, Is Trey Jones I think there is. Is Trey Jones the most consistent Spur this season?
I would definitely put him up there. I think close second would have been Pirtle if he didn't get hit with the injury bug as much, because he was giving you steady production. I think another player that's climbing the charts is Zach Collins. When he's healthy, he tends to just give you those 7 rebounds, 8-10 points a game. But as far as consistent, I think it's Trey Jones. 13 points versus the Rockets, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, a near triple-double there. 1 steal, just 1 turnover. His three-point shot is still being work in progress, 1 for 5. But you see those type of stats more consistently out of him than any other Spur. He is slowly emerging as a big key to the Spurs rebuild. Do you think the Spurs would be fine with him as a point guard moving forward in the rebuild, or you think they got to go in a different direction simply because he's just undersized?
So I think the undersized part really does affect him, but I mean, I think they're putting all their marbles into the Blake Wesley type move to where he's going to be a starting point guard for them. But what I would like people to understand is, like, with Trey Jones, like I said, he's not going to be the greatest point guard. He's not going to be the absolute best starting point guard, but he gives you vibes of early DeJounte Murray stats. And that's kind of saying a lot for Trey. He's not going to be as explosive as DeJounte, but he has the potential to be a really good defender and a really good all-around point guard, someone that can lead a team. So if you're going to get guys like Keldon and Devin to be the man, you need someone to actually run the team with them. I think Trey does a really good job. And I can't believe I'm saying it about a Blue Devil, but I mean, this guy has really grown on me. I watched him when he played with Duke. I watched him as he's been in the league. I've seen him in Austin. This guy deserves a long career with the San Antonio Spurs.
Oh, he definitely does. And I know I like his game. I like what he brings. I just wonder if he is the point guard moving forward in this rebuild. That's actually a great topic for another Locked On Spurs. I'm going to steal that from you, Rudy. I'm letting you know now. Everybody, I'm stealing that topic from Rudy, so don't be surprised if you see it down the road on Locked On Spurs. I want to talk about Doug McDermott. 16 points off the bench, 6 for 11 shooting, 4 for 6 from 3 line. That's pretty good. 23 minutes. Still one of your bigger trade pieces, or are you keeping him on moving forward in the season, Rudy?
No, he's got to be a trade piece, man.
Okay.
Dougie's fantastic, but in a league where you need shooting, a lot of these contenders are going to need shooters. So Dougie's going to be a very hot commodity, and good for him. I mean, veteran guy, really good guy in the league, one of the better guys in the league. If he has a chance, an opportunity to win an NBA title, then by all means, hey, help him out on that.
Yeah, another good line, very underrated. I guess hero, quote unquote, for the Spurs win over the Rockets. Once again, Spurs beat the Rockets 124-105, moved to 10-20 on the season, 5-8 away from the AT&T, and they'll next play the Pelicans. Yikes! This Thursday out in New Orleans. And speaking of the AT&T Center, we're going to be talking about arena, specifically the Alamodome. The Spurs announced that they are close to breaking the NBA all-time attendance record. But we're going to ask, can it still be done, to finish out this episode of Locked On Spurs with Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. But before we do that, I want to talk to you about BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season to basketball. They got it all over at BetOnline. If you love sports podcasts, they even got those over at BetOnline as well. Always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, or just info in general, from the Rookie of the Year award race, how are the Spurs doing, their trio of rookies. You can check that out over at BetOnline. How's Pop doing in the Coach of the Year race? You can check that as well over at BetOnline on the NBA futures. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device. Use your laptop. Do what you got to do to go to BetOnline to learn more. Why? Because that's where the game starts. And we're back with Rudy Campos right here on Locked On Spurs. Follow him on Twitter at Sweep the League. Rudy, is your daughter going to say, hey, let's paint your hair to give Jeremy Sohan some run in that department?
Well, She's actually mentioned it. She wanted to
Get
go
out.
with a bright. She wanted to go with a bright pink hairspray, like they sell that spray
Oh,
that
yeah,
colors
yeah,
your
yeah.
hair, like
Yeah.
back in the old school with the tips and all that. Remember we had all that thing going on, but she was talking about that. So we're gonna see if that happens during this little Christmas break we've got.
Could you do that? Could you dye your hair the way Sohan does, or that's a young man's game?
It's a young man's game, but I probably would if given the opportunity, and my job doesn't say anything negative about it, which it probably would. I would do it. I don't know why. I'm just a person that just whatever. I mean, free spirited. If my hair is colored, it's colored. Who cares?
Well, maybe you can color your hair for the Alamodome game. The Spurs recently announced that the race to break the NBA all-time attendance record is in full hyperdrive, as Captain Zola would say, punch it, Chewy. Yeah, they're going for it. And they recently announced that they are at the 45,000 ticket sold for the Dome game. Their goal is, I think, is to get like 60, it's like the whole freaking Alamodome, which is 65,000 plus. They're trying to break that record. The mayor of San Antonio announced that there'll be free parking for that game everywhere in downtown San Antonio, giving city workers half day off to go and support the team. They're really pushing it. There's another round of $10 tickets out there on Ticketmaster or Spurs app. So they're definitely pushing, Rudy, but I got to ask you, 65,000, they're 20,000 away. Do you think they could do it?
Man, that's a tough one for me. I think I want to say yes, they can. I mean, 20,000 sounds like a lot, but it really isn't if you think about it. Now, they're going $10 tickets. That's another thing. Free parking is a huge benefit.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
I really feel they're going to have a massive push coming up to where you're probably going to see a lot of businesses come in and maybe purchase a lot of those $10 tickets, give them to employees, give them away as contests, do this, do that. I really think by the time the actual game comes that we're going to see the NBA attendance record broken, and I just hope they have the water cannons turned off for this game.
Or what they should do is just have a fake turn on and maybe just shower everybody with confetti coming from that water cannon. The one thing that I'm pretty sure they could figure it out, but if they do get to 65K, where would you put the blue curtain? Because the blue curtain is iconic for the Alamodome days.
They wouldn't. Well, if they go to 65K, isn't that the entire dome?
That's the entire dome. Yeah, I think that's what they're gunning for.
So there's no blue curtain, man. That's it. I would say there's no blue curtain. They're gonna have to get rid of it. Mm-hmm. Where do you put the retired jerseys though? Because weren't they with the blue curtain?
Yeah, they were more portrait style, right? Remember that they had a more portrait look to it.
Yeah, I don't. You know what? It's going to be a different feel, and honestly, I would love to. I hope they do get to 65,000. I'm just wondering what the the noise is going to be like for that kind of game. That would be.
Yeah, I gotta see. I'm going to test your Spurs history knowledge here. Do you remember the championship banner in there? It was a black and a purple banner. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Yeah, I believe it was the 1999 banner was in the middle of the curtain, I think, if I remember correctly. And it said world champions and had the picture of the Larry O'Brien trophy, but it was white lettering. God, help me remember this. Black background with a purple border. Wasn't it something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a purple border on it.
I would love to see all the banners dressed up like that for that night.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice to do that. I think they're going to obviously have the Fiesta Court is what I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it'll be Fiesta Court. The floor seats are going to be there's going to be so many floor seats. If you're doing the entire Alamodome, it's going to be center stage of that dome. There's going to be so many floors. I can't even imagine it, to be honest.
Do you know anybody who's going? Like your family, friends, any of that?
I've got family that's already bought tickets. I have a lot of friends that I've seen them post on social media that they're going. They got their tickets. I'm still waiting to see if I can make it. I'm probably going to end up going anyway. I'm terrified of the rafters, and the dome was real bad about, where you're actually leaning forward, and I was always terrified of that, but we'll see. I'm actually gonna try to get out there and see that game because it's gonna be pretty epic, I think.
Yeah, well, Steph Curry's not gonna be playing that game. He's out for a while, so no Steph for that game. So hopefully the Spurs get a W.
This is one of those Klay Thompson games where he probably goes for like 65 or something.
You just jinxed it. They're gonna spoil the return to the Dome game. I'm just glad because it gives us old guys a chance to relive our childhood or young Spurs memories, and then these young kids, these 30, 35 and under kids, who's never got to go to the Dome, to get to go to the Dome and see a Spurs game. So all in all, tickets are available still, everybody. Spurs app, or go to the Alamodome box office itself if you're in San Antonio, or Ticketmaster. They're there. Hopefully the Spurs can break the NBA record, and we'll see what they do. They still got time, plenty of time to make that happen. Rudy, tell us what's going on at Sweep the League. And a little birdie told me that you have a kettle. You're raising money for those in need during Christmas.
Yeah, we've been raising money for the past couple of weeks, and we're doing it up until, I believe it's December 30th, I believe. So, you can go to Salvation Army. Just type in Salvation Army San Antonio. Go to the Parade of Kettles. Look for Sweep the League on their website. Click on that. Make a donation. Help us out. We're rescuing Christmas. It's a lot of us that are doing it, but Sweep the League is definitely the best. So help us out. And you can find our episodes every single, either Monday or Wednesday. We're going to release it this Wednesday. So look for our episodes. We're talking Spurs and NFL, and we're going to give a major shout out to one Corey Alexander of the San Antonio Spurs. I bring up another one for Jeff here.
I was going to ask you if you can close out the show with an obscure Spur. Okay, so you gave us Corey Alexander. You got any others?
Man, I'm so big time on these. I'm a huge fan, but recently I saw a little post from Kenny Anderson of the New Jersey Nets giving a shout out to one Lloyd Daniels.
Sweet Pea.
Yeah.
Sweet Pea. He was Tark's guy, right?
Yeah. No, John Lucas.
John Lucas, right. That's right. Yeah.
John Lucas brought him in.
Yeah. Sweet Pea. I mean, that was Lucas part of the rebuild or no?
So Lucas was there with the Rodman and Rodman and, Robinson,
Elliott. No, was Elliott traded to Pistons already?
I think Elliott was already traded to the Pistons at that time.
Wow, man, I haven't heard of Lloyd Sweet Pea. Sweet Pea.
I know. Even Spurs fans can understand this. They don't even realize one of the greatest basketball players to ever play in international history, and we're not talking Manu Ginobili, even played for the San Antonio Spurs. It was 1 year, and it was pretty recent, 98, 99. I mean, go back and look at highlights from Andrew Gaze, Australia's own Andrew Gaze.
Andrew Gaze. He was Patty Mills before Patty Mills.
Yes. He was the modern day version of Drazen Petrovic. I mean, he could ball.
Won a title with the Spurs, right?
Yeah.
In the 99.
That was the 98, 99 season. Yeah, he won a title with the Spurs.
Look at that. Rudy bringing all. Hey, look, it is the 50th anniversary celebration for the San Antonio franchise. So Rudy's doing his part to remind you kids of the past players that ever wore the silver and black. Hey, we're done talking. We want to hear from you. What do you think about the Spurs win over the Rockets? Likes, dislikes? You hating it that the Spurs won and Houston lost because they really won and chased for Wemby? And also, are you going to the Dome to help break the NBA attendance record? And that could be all San Antonio's to brag about moving forward. Let us know on Twitter at Jeff G Spurs Zone. Rudy on at Sweep the League. Make sure you follow him right now. And we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Subscribe to Locked On Spurs on YouTube, the Kens 5 Plus app, Odyssey app. Pick a platform. We are there. So for Rudy Campos, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.